Hola, 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 hola. Vale, pues ya está.
একটা কথা জানি ভাই শোনেন না না একেবারে ডাইরেক্ট করেছেন আমি তো
Dear viewers and well-wishers, I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar program organized by the Embassy of Bangladesh, Madrid, Spain. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening. Today is 6 September 2021. We all know that year 2021 is a remarkable year for all of us. This year, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary, the golden jubilee of the independence of our country, Bangladesh. In this year, we are also celebrating the birth centenary of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. On this occasion, I would like to convey my tribute to our great national leader, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his family members, martyred on 15th August 1975. 3 million souls sacrificed their lives during our great liberation war, and our freedom fighters, without whose valiant contribution it was not possible for us to get to the days we are enjoying today. Dear viewers, the title of today's webinar is Bangladesh at 50, Emerging Bangladesh Economy, Reflections on the Spain-Bangladesh Relations. We have 6 distinguished guests among us today as discussants in today's program. At first, I would like to introduce them to you. We have Lieutenant Colonel retired Kazi Sajjad Ali Johir, Bir Pratik, who will be joining us through Zoom network from Bangladesh, a valiant freedom fighter, a writer, columnist, a teacher, researcher, and also recipient of 2 prestigious civil awards, both from Bangladesh and India. He was awarded the Shadhinata Padak from Bangladesh and Padma Shri from India. Next, we have as discussant Mr. Chakladar Mahbub Alam, a columnist and the longest living expatriate in Spain. Next, we have Ms. Nuria Lopez Labrador, a prominent business person from Spain and the president of Spain-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce. Next, we have Professor Santiago Fernandez Mosquera. He is the professor of University of Santiago de Compostela. Next, we have Ambassador Mr. Arturo Perez Arturo Perez Martinez. He was the first resident ambassador to Spain to Bangladesh. He served in Bangladesh since 2008 to 2011, and he's a senior diplomat of Spanish Foreign Service. And our today's webinar program is graced with the kind presence of His Excellency, the Ambassador of Bangladesh to Spain, Equatorial Guinea, and Andorra, Mr. Muhammad Sarwar Mahmoud, NDC. We have these 6 participants in today's discussion. At first, I will start with Mr. Kazi Sajjad Ali Johir. He will be joining us through Zoom network from Bangladesh. But before going to that, I'm just going through a short biography of him. Lieutenant Colonel Kazi Sajjad Ali Johir was born on 11 April 1951 in Comilla. In 1971, he defected from the then Pakistan Army and crossed the Jammu-Kashmir border and joined Bangladesh Liberation War. He fought in Sector Number 4. He participated in the battles of Borolekha, Shamshernagar, Mongla Bazar, Juri, Kulaura, Fenchuganj, and Sylhet Town, and took part in a number of operations along with the Indian battalions during the Liberation War. For his valor in the battles, he was awarded the Bir Pratik Gallantry Award. He was also awarded Shadhinata Padak from Bangladesh and Padma Shri from India. He has authored 58 books and a large number of articles in Bangla and English newspapers and periodicals in Bangladesh and abroad on Liberation War. He is teaching in prominent educational institutions in Bangladesh. He was the project director and executive editor of Bangladesh Army History Project and completed writing of History of Bangladesh Army from 1948 to 2013. It has 5 volumes, and also edited Battles of 1971. It has 7 volumes. Now, I would like to invite him to speak on today's topic. Mr. Johir, if you are okay with the connection with us.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we are hearing you. You can, if you just
Thank you.
Start your presentation here. Thank you.
Okay. It's a rare privilege on my part to address such an august gathering today, which is containing of our respected High Commissioner, a highly talented and a patriotic diplomat from Bangladesh, our officers of the High Commission, the Bangladeshi nationals who are who have joined us from Spain, and the most respected persons from Spain who are highly educated, glamorous in their way of life, with education and with talent. I start today's discussion by paying largest tribute to our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and his family members and the national leaders who are all brutally killed by anti-liberation fundamentalist people with killing instinct. Bangladesh was born with lot of tragedies. War kills, it kills men, women, children, love, and history. If we do not culture history, then history dies with a generation. But we in Bangladesh, having faced so many problems, still we are holding on to our history. Athens' dust had withered away, and we are still determined to develop our country to be a prosperous country. Here I would pay the richest tribute to the daughter of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who had taken hold of the path of history and trying to complete the unfinished dreams and works of the father of the nation. Today, Bangladesh at 50 is really prospering well. We got our independence 50 years back, and after that, we had a long period of military rule, non democratic rule, which has hampered our progress. But under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who is a fabulous leader, talented leader, and a very brave leader who has taken the challenges of history and tried to make Bangladesh a prosperous country. Here I would like to point out some of the facts to you, especially from our respected friends from Spain who have great admiration and respect for us, and the respect is mutual. We have much respect and honor for the people of Spain who have always stood by us in the time of need, and our community of Bangladeshis who live in Spain, they are full of praise and honor for them. Within a very short time, that's hardly about 12 years, Honorable Sheikh Hasina has taken Bangladesh out from the least development country to the pages of a middle income country. I would like to quote one line from a leading economist of Pakistan, Dr. Abid Hassan, who was a very important official in the World Bank. He said a few months back, the way Bangladesh is progressing, within 10 to 12 years, Pakistan will have to ask for loan or grant from Bangladesh. God bless all of us. We have extended our hand to the Sri Lankan government who are having problem in paying their debt relief, and Bangladesh, a very good neighbor of Sri Lanka. We have a lot of respect and love and affection for this island country. We have extended our hand to them for solving their debt relief problem. Today, by the grace of Almighty God, we are the second largest producer of the garments industry in the world, and we are closely following up China. If we progress like this, within a decade we will be able to overtake China. We are contributing maximum number of peacekeeping forces in the world. Bangladesh troops are operating, sacrificing their lives and bringing peace to the conflict areas starting from Bosnia to Kosovo to African countries. And they are lauded for their discipline and motivation and service to humanity. We are very proud of them. Further, we are the fourth largest inland fish producing country in the world, and we have a very dynamic and young population. This population is helping us to grow faster. Our land is one of the most fertile lands in the world, being the lower Gangetic Delta and Brahmaputra River. So, as we are prospering well, we, the citizens of Bangladesh, would request the citizens of Spain and the government of Spain to please come forward, hold our hand, and together we can march for making our societies more able, competent, and prosperous. Bangladesh welcomes the business communities of Spain, industrial communities, because we have much to offer. Number one, we can offer them natural resources. We can offer them qualified, technically sound manpower and very hardworking male and female population. And your investments in Bangladesh, as you must have heard from our Excellency High Commissioner, that is very secured. And we are also having export processing zones in which different countries are allocated the land where they can do their own industries, and they are earning lot of profit, and we are also gaining knowledge and technology from them. So we'd like to extend our heartful of invitation to the businessmen, technicians, scientists, and philosophers, teachers of Spain to join hand with us, and let there be no burden between us, and there should be no deficiency on words from our side. Further, we would also say that now we are celebrating our 50 years of victory, also celebrating the 100th year of birth anniversary of our father of the nation. And after the epidemics are over, there will be a surge of business activities. And this is going to hit all the countries in the world. And let us use that opportunity of having more friends with Spain, because we are a country of the youth, and our youth welcomes you to join with us. I would again like to thank that Spain has always helped us in the effort for achieving our freedom and winning justice as a competent member of world community. Especially, I would like to invite the young generation, the students of Bangladesh and Spain, to get more friendly, learn from each other. Spain is a highly digitalized nation with lot of assets, and Bangladesh is a growing economy with a very high digital base. Let us exchange our ideas, and the youth of both the countries should make better friends with more visits, more communication, and more effort. Finally, we'd like to say that we and you are both dutiful children of our own countries. The country is our motherland. Let us serve our motherland with the best possible way so that both of our motherlands they prosper. The Spanish people are known to be most dynamic, most friendly, the big-hearted people. So are Bangladeshis. We have little bit of a problem of communication, but that can be overcome by effort of our new generation by learning the language of each other. We can also say that we should not cut the flowers anytime. Let the flowers bloom. Flowers of Spain, flowers of Bangladesh should bloom together. And with these bloomed flowers, our friendship will bloom further. I thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me the youth opportunity to speak to such august gathering. Long live Bangladesh and Spain friendship. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Zahir. I would like to hear from you. One more thing is that during your discussion, you said that under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, we are doing very well towards the development. So, can you please just justify the things that the world leaders, according to the media right now, has given influence, like the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is doing fantastically well, and we are moving towards our development right now. So how do you evaluate the comments we are getting right now throughout different medias and from other leaders of different countries?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very good point, my friend, you have brought it. These days, when you go, previously, 15, 20 years back, we used to enter one airport and the custom officer were asking me that, sorry, Bangladesh is suffering so much. These days, we enter another country's airport. The custom officials smile at us and say, welcome, Bangladesh is doing so well. We are so happy. We have many friends across the world. Let me tell you one thing, Bangladesh is a small country, but we have $48 billion reserves in our central bank, which is very stable economy. Our economy is booming and growing. Before the epidemics hit, we were one of the fastest growing economy in the world with a 8.2% GDP growth. And we had all overtaken China also. But due to epidemic, still now our growth is around 5.2%, which is fabulous. And this is what we have to remember. And the government policies of inviting investment from abroad has given a lot of opportunity for our people to seek employment and increase our technology and increase our exports. Our exports primarily were garments. Now we are having more of exports with diversity like jute, like vegetables, like fish, like food items, like other commodities. So export is also going further. And with the economic, well, open economic concept, there are more investments in Bangladesh in the fields of finance, in the fields of industries, in the fields of education. And please remember that our largest, with one of the fastest growing education institutes are in Bangladesh. Finally, to tell you, we are being a Muslim majority country also. Our empowerment of women is one of the best in the world today. We have many soldiers who are from the female community. Even today, a full battalion of police is working in Congo, where the starting from the commanding officer up to the lowest soldier is a female. We have many secretaries of the government, generals in the army, and industrial workers, police, bureaucrats everywhere. Even in the High Commission, you will find the trace of very bright, young, and dynamic female officers. So all of this has made Bangladesh into a melting point of development. And as you go through all the criteria that I have said, this will encourage businessmen, industrialists, and from Spain to visit Bangladesh. Once they visit Bangladesh with the friendly people, people with an open heart, open arms, they will be able to make some more investment in Bangladesh, which we should all cater from. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. I am very grateful.
Thank you, Mr. Kaji Sajjad Ali Jahir, for your nice, elaborate discussion in today's topic. I'd like to move on to our next discussant today. He is Mr. Chakladar Mahabubul Alam. He will be joining us now in the studio. At first, I'm going through a short biography of him. He's the longest living expatriate in Spain, living here for more than 50 years. He was born in 1935 in Dhaka. He studied in Bangladesh, Spain, and England. He spent nearly 30 years of his life working for large multinational corporations as a professional manager. After retirement, he started writing in various newspapers and journals in English and Spanish. His objective in this new profession has been to promote better understanding between the East and the West. I'd like to invite Mr. Mahabubul Alam right now to speak on today's topic.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. May I?
Yes, of course.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, on this solemn occasion of the 50th anniversary of the birth of Bangladesh, today I'm here to tell you my story, to speak to you about my Spanish experience. This is a personal thing. It's not much to do with what the Colonel has said, but this is a very personal note. Before I start, let me ask you a question, the participants here. I see most of you have visited Bangladesh, but how many of you, except, of course, Ambassador Arturo, have stayed there for long enough to get to know the people, enjoy our food, observe our customs and traditions, appreciate our rich culture, and of course, try to learn our language. Because as you probably know, that Bengali belongs to the Indo-European group of languages. I mean, this is just a general question. You think about it. On my next birthday, inshallah, God willing, I will be 87 years old. Many years ago, on a sultry autumn evening, when I first arrived at the Barajas airport, I was 22 years old. True, because of work and studies, I've spent long periods of time away from Spain. But my heart has always been here. I have spent most of life in Spain or been associated with Spain. My children and grandchildren are all Spanish citizens. I'm an immigrant to this country, but a very privileged one. I won a scholarship from the government of Spain, for which I am thankful to the government of Spain, for postgraduate studies through El Instituto Hispano-Árabe de Cultura, which was then, at that time, located in La Escuela Diplomática. An American institution called the Asian Foundation financed my passage, the airfare, and I take this opportunity to thank both the Spanish government and the Asia Foundation for this kindness and generosity. Actually, to tell you the truth, many people have been very kind and generous to me. I still remember my arrival at the Barajas airport. after a very long and tedious and tiring journey. After landing at the airport, my principal worry was how to make it to the center of Madrid, find a room, have a shower, and have something to eat. I must emphasize the fact, and this is important, that I did not speak a single word of Spanish and had left Dhaka with 11 American dollars in my pocket. And of course, a bag full of blessings from my parents. As you can see, I had reasons to be worried about the whole thing. Of course, at that moment, what I did not know was that the acting Pakistani ambassador, Mr. Bashirul Alam, no relation of mine, he is not related to me, had sent his huge car, like the one my current ambassador has, with his chauffeur, whose name was Manolo, to collect me, take me to a nice hotel near the embassy, which at that time was located in Calle Almagro. Mr. Bashirul Alam's, again I must insist, he is not related to me. Name is also relevant here because in this context, because he was one of the first Pakistani ambassadors of Bangladeshi origin who hoisted the Bangladeshi flag at the embassy in Warsaw when the Pakistani military junta unleashed a reign of terror on the civilian population in East Pakistan, which we now call Bangladesh. After so many years, and this is important for you to remember, I still maintain close relationship with his family members who settled in London. At that time, there were not many people from the subcontinent of India in Spain. But after the birth of Bangladesh in 1971, the situation changed rapidly. Thousands of illegal immigrants started coming into the country. You can find them selling all sorts of cheap garments and cotton wares at every street corner. As the number grew, this unexpected phenomenon created tensions between the governments of Spain and Bangladesh. Neither of them at that time had any diplomatic representation in each other's capital. In this context, I must mention the name of Alvaro Sarmiento, our first honorary consul, and a friend, our ambassador Arturo and myself. He was born, I must say that if I run out of time, just cut me out, You okay? He was in a conservative Spanish family in Zaragoza, the seat of the prestigious Spanish military academy. His father was a general who served in the Spanish army as a close collaborator of General Franco, the former head of state of Spain. Alvaro studied engineering, got a doctorate, then using his family connections, went into business and became very wealthy. He learned how to play piano as a professional artist and took lessons to appreciate works of art. Soon he married into an equally wealthy family and had children. Until then, there was nothing in his background to indicate that he had any interest in the poor people in his home country, far less in the immigrant community from Bangladesh. A chance encounter in Madrid in the early 70s with a Bangladeshi student called Munir ul Islam, now the internationally famous and recognized artist called Artist Munir, changed all that. By his own confession, Alvaro found Munir and his sketches rather exotic. This was the beginning of a strange friendship between a penniless immigrant student and a wealthy businessman who belonged to the ruling elite of the Spanish society. It also marked the beginning of Alvaro's transformation from a fun-loving, girl-chasing classicist to a generous philanthropist who became genuinely interested in the welfare of the people who were less fortunate. Since it was very, very expensive to open and run a full-fledged diplomatic mission in Madrid, the embassy in Paris had jurisdiction over Spain. The then government of Bangladesh decided to look for an honorary consul in Madrid to take care of its growing immigrant population and to open up the possibility of bilateral trade. This was not an easy task. The chosen person, remember, the chosen person had to be wealthy enough to pay for all the expenses of running a consulate from his own pocket, and also had to have a genuine interest in helping the poor immigrants from Bangladesh. Because of his friendship with Alvaro, artist Munir, recommended him for this position to General Abdur Rahman, the then Bangladeshi ambassador to Paris. Alvaro took his job very seriously, and for 11 years, remember, from 1986 to 1997, he served the growing Bangladeshi community in every possible way. He issued innumerable passports, gave legal support, personally attended them at immigration centers. Sometimes he also gave small sums of money to get by temporarily. Later, he helped their children to obtain scholarships so that they could pursue higher studies. Alvaro became so fond of Bangladesh and its people that he visited the country 14 times, 14 times, 3 of them in the company of Queen Sofia, who happened to love Bangladesh as well. He visited every nook and corner of the country. He came to know Bangladesh so well that he often used to give geography lessons to me, a native son of Bangladesh. He loved our food, our traditional handicrafts, cotton buds. He had truly become a son of Bangladesh, albeit an adopted one. In 2010, in recognition to his services to Bangladesh and Spain, at the recommendation of our friend Ambassador Arturo, King Juan Carlos of Spain appointed him as a Comendador de la Orden del Mérito Civil it is a pity, and take note, sir, it is a pity that the government of Bangladesh has not yet found it appropriate to honor this great friend of Bangladesh and the Bangladeshi poor people. The community has grown significantly. By and large, the Spaniards have come to accept us as a peaceful, hard-working community. The second generation of the Bangladeshis speaks Spanish fluently, and some of their children are pursuing higher education. I hope their children will grow up to be hard-working, loyal citizens of this country. This, finally, as a concluding this short speech, this indeed is a great country to live, love, and die, because the death, after all, is a part of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chakradar Mahabur Alam. We got to know your personal experience. Actually, we didn't know that much as you have described right now. We are very much grateful to you. Now we move on to our next discussant, Ms. Nuria Lopez Labrador. I'm happy to get her here today. Ms. Nuria is a prominent business person in Spain. She is the managing director of Zalo Knitting Limited and Aero Sportswear Limited, which are both garments factories. She is also the director of Nupami BD, sole distributor of Porcelanosa in Bangladesh. She is the president and founder member of Spain-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce. She was the informal convener of the EU private sector in Bangladesh, participating in the EU BD, Business Climate Dialogue. She was awarded the Civil Merit Medal by the King of Spain for her contribution to the formation of the Spain-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In 2018, she was selected as one of the 14 faces that represented in different areas by Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain on the celebration of 40th anniversary of democracy in Spain. Ms. Nuria has experienced the economic growth of Bangladesh for a very close position. She occasionally says she visited Bangladesh more than 30 years ago. She had a lot of passion for Bangladesh. Now I'd like to hear from you, please.
Thank you very much for inviting me today in this special celebration. For me, as my predecessor said before, he was in love with Spain. I am in love with Bangladesh. I mean, I am in debt as well with the country. I always say that he has given opportunities to me that I didn't even find in my own country. Today, I am happy for that reason to be here, and I'm going to be explaining a little bit my experience as a businesswoman in there, and also how I see business in Bangladesh and the possibilities that Spain and Bangladesh may have to engage in a much stronger relation. Bangladesh has received the green signal by the United Nations to move from the group of undeveloped countries to the group of developing countries. We are expecting to reach soon 35 million of middle-class population in the country. Why do I mention this as the opening of my explanation? Because this is what this country has achieved in just 50 years since it was born. You know, it's a great achievement, both economically and socially, since they were the poorest country when they were born. I want to mention the opportunities, but I will not omit the barriers, as both parts form what is the country today, just to make business. It was a devastated country, as I say, starting from zero, which means they had to build up infrastructures, they have to develop the agriculture to be self-sufficient, new industries in every sector, policies and regulations, and they have also to focus in bringing foreign investment to help them move into the goals they want to achieve. Education has been also improved a lot. Nothing was there, and they have done enormously well, and especially in the textile sector. The textile sector has been the engine of the development of Bangladesh, and it has driven the economy just to the growth path that they have achieved in the last 10 years. Now they are welcoming investors to develop the other sectors. I mean, the garment sector is strong. Everybody recognizes in the world Bangladesh as the second largest exporter of textile goods. But the other sectors are still virgin for investors to come and try to implement the well practices they have. I mean, whatever experience and know-how we have in here, we can transfer it to Bangladesh. They are welcoming that. They really focus and they are trying to create policies and they are trying to make reforms and they are trying to be very friendly for investors. They have created export processing zones. They are giving all kinds of incentives to investors. Our chamber, for instance, right now is focusing on trying to connect the Almeria agro sector, a worldwide referent in the new concept of modern agriculture, with their Bangladeshi counterparts. We want them to meet and to understand that Almeria at one point was like, it was the poorest province in Spain. And after this period of time, which is almost 50 years as well, they have become one of the strongest provinces in Spain. They are a large exporter of agro products to Europe, and they have developed in just this area. I believe that if we can put the two countries together in that area, we will be having a lot of common paths, and I think Bangladesh will be benefited, and Spain will also be benefited. We are also paying attention to the auxiliary sector of the automobile business, where we can also do well. The IT sector in Bangladesh is emerging strongly as well. As my predecessors say as well, Bangladesh is strong in exporting fish, exporting jute, rice, vegetables, potatoes, and mango. But again, the country is virgin. It's virgin for us to come and see the opportunities and to work together with them. I also want to mention one thing that is important for us, for the business community. Bangladesh is a country with political stability. This is a very important if we want to maintain the growth that they have been reaching in the last decade. This is a country of strong resilience. Bangladesh worked very hard. They have made a very big sacrifice, all the stakeholders, since the liberation of the country. Starting from zero, can you imagine having nothing and reaching this level of development, which for us, still in Spain, we don't understand. This is a problem. In Spain, we still think of Bangladesh like before, and that is a totally wrong image that we are having in here. So I do really respect the sacrifice that the country has gone through to reach those levels. I think that we have to give the support to Bangladesh now, since they have fight so strongly and with such a strong resilience. We need to help them to move forward. We need to try to bring as much as we can investors into Bangladesh. Bangladesh shows a great respect to the European values on production and on the ethics on the industries that we have. So they always give a lot of prestige to the European products. So that is also a plus for anyone that wants to invest in Bangladesh. The business community is very proactive. And, every day you can easily find people talking about new business, new enterprise. There is continually looking to start new projects. Our two populations, we are very much alike. I think we are sharing the same character. We are very open, very friendly, very social. It's easy. Once you arrive in Bangladesh, very soon you will be invited to the residence for, sharing their culture, their family, and everything they have. I always feel like I was I never feel like a foreigner in Bangladesh. I feel like I have family there, and I have friends that they are like this. So I think that we need to understand one thing that I always say every time I have the opportunity to talk about Bangladesh. Spain lost a lot of opportunities in Bangladesh, especially in the infrastructure. When Bangladesh has been going through huge infrastructure investment financed by the ADB, Asian Development Bank, or the World Bank, and also in G2G projects, Spain did not take any kind of interest on that, or at least a strong interest. But I hope that now we can at least try to change, and we can try to we can try to use the opportunity that Bangladesh is offering for foreign investors, so the Spanish business community can focus on Bangladesh and understand the potential they have. You need to understand that Bangladesh is a part of a region that has an area of influence of more than 2,000 million people, almost 3,000. They belong to the SAARC countries. You have India, you have Thailand close, you have Nepal, you have Sri Lanka. So the opportunities are there. If we know how to develop business in here, we can also develop business in Bangladesh. In Europe and in Spain as well, we need to understand and pay attention, for instance, like countries like Japan, which are strongly focusing now in investing in Bangladesh, because we need to understand that Japanese are not careless or reckless people. The Japanese always thought very carefully where to do business and where to go to invest. And they have come to Bangladesh, and I have the chance to talk to one ambassador of Japan, and he was explaining to me that they are focusing in Bangladesh because they believe that Bangladesh has the same potential that Thailand has 20 years ago. And they already come. How they come? I saw the diplomacy arrive together with the business community, and they did an excellent work, which I haven't seen for the European part anyhow. So in conclusion, for the areas of investment, Bangladesh has a lot of opportunities to the business community. If you want to arrive to Bangladesh, obviously you have to be careful because for Spanish, this is a very unknown country. So I will always recommend to approach the Chamber of Commerce or the commercial office in the Embassy of Bangladesh in Madrid, or the commercial office of the Spanish Embassy in Dhaka, just to understand the systems and such. But keep the attention that the country is offering a huge opportunities in incentives and sporting areas, we call it EPZs, sporting promotion areas, where you can just try to put and establish your business there. So going to the advantages, I have already gone through a little bit. Now, barriers. Obviously, you will not feel I am sincere if I don't talk about the problems. There are problems, but we also have problems in here. And I don't see different problems in Bangladesh that I have or I face in Spain when I am doing business. What we have to mention, basically on my idea, is the problems they have is they have grown so fast that they haven't been able to create all the infrastructures and everything at the same time, at the same page. They grow very fast, 6-8% in the last decade. So they cannot modernize the country at the same. It takes longer and it takes a big effort. I think we need to give them support, and we need to give them the space to reach that level of development where they can compare to the developed countries the Western countries. Basically, what are the problems we are facing in there is bureaucracy, but they are also power supplies and lack of infrastructures was also a problem before, as well as justice system is also a kind of a problem. But I must say as well that those problems have been identified and they are now addressed. There are solutions and there are systems under implementation right now. There are a lot of constructions going on, such as the metro, new airport terminals, new roads and bridges. The power supply has been increased in a significant way. So I do believe that they are in the process of repairing all that, and they are, we are engaged many times with the government, giving them our opinion on what are the problems and how can we solve them. And so they are trying hard to do it anyway. And another problem related in the trade. So in Bangladesh, we do have a problem with the import duties. It is very difficult to bring goods from Europe to Bangladesh because the import duties are extremely high. This is something that we cannot discuss directly with the government of Bangladesh, but the European Union has to probably negotiate just a kind of discussion, since we are the major recipient of the exports of Bangladesh. European Union is the #1 customer of Bangladesh. Probably that has to be improved. The problem they are facing in this regard is normally they have to adjust their balance, their budget, and right now they are creating the new taxation, the new income tax, and new VAT. So until they reach this level where they can be self-sufficient with these taxes and this new tax legislation they are creating, they only have the import duties and such to be able to level the budget. So we have to be a little patient on that. Still, we think that we We will try our best to bring things from Spain to Bangladesh, like olive oil and such, which will be very interesting for the Bangladeshi community because it's related to health as well. I want to mention that there was a survey done by the European Chamber of Commerce. Actually, I think it was the Nordic Chamber, that shows that all the European Union investors in Bangladesh, that are now present in Bangladesh, they have in their mind to increase their investment. So that is a message, because if someone that is there is increasing their investment, means they are happy. They can mention many times in the forums, oh, we have this problem and such. They are increasing their investment. So that should be a strong message to the new investors. If the Japanese, for instance, are coming strongly, and whoever Europeans are there are also investing more, the country is attractive for investment. But we do have a very bad image. We are not judging Bangladesh in a justice way, I mean, in a fair way. Why? Because if you read the newspapers in Spain, most of the times you only talk about disasters. You talk about the Rana Plaza, or you talk about cyclones and things like that. You never talk about that, oh, Bangladesh has been mentioned as the new tiger of Asia, or as the growth, I mean, the country that has the highest growth in Asia as well. Those messages doesn't come to Spain. For that reason, probably the Spanish business community do not have an understanding of that Bangladesh could be a good destination. So I hope that we can change that. That is because it's also important. The social development that we have been talking also before. Women has come into the economy now. They are part of the economy. You will see, I have met one pilot woman that is driving the big Airbus planes. I have met all the women that they are working in the garment sector. Basically, they are women. They come now to the economy, which is also very important. Education has grown strongly. Still has to be improved, 100%. But when I arrived in Bangladesh, hardly any children was going to school. Today, all the people that work for me, all their children go to school. And that is something, this is a message. The new generation is coming with more preparation, and they are, as I say, a very hard worker population. They really fight to take a strong part in the economy, and they are continuously moving, and different conditions that they have, hard conditions, sometimes with disasters like cyclones and such, but still they are always fighting and going on. So I will just say that the image that we are getting by talking about that is not really good. For instance, in the garment sector, where I am an entrepreneur, people always talk about the labor, the child labor in the industry. People do not understand that this is totally wrong. I mean, if you want to dig deep, and you go to Dhaka and try to find in a way, in a very remote area, you can find that, obviously, but if you can do also in Spain. But the real truth of the textile sector in Bangladesh is that they are under a strong compliance set of rules that they have been established by the major buyers, and that everybody is interested in keeping those compliance rules. There is no child labor in Bangladesh as a thing that is a standard. You may find it somewhere in small units, but they may be family units or wherever it is, but you will never find in a big factory that represents 90% of the factories of Bangladesh any child labor at all. What else I would like to mention, which is important, is that I believe that Spain has to acknowledge that Bangladesh should be a partner. Bangladesh is not a poor country anymore. We have already passed that level. And as partners, we have to respect each other, and we will have a lot of opportunities. And I would like to mention one case, for instance. Just imagine if today we are talking about Movistar. If Movistar went to Bangladesh 20 years ago, they would have done exactly what Telenor, a Nordic company, did. They went there, and there was no mobile system at all. They came, they established the mobile system. Today, Grameenphone is the #1 mobile company in Bangladesh. They have more than 47, I think, subscriptors. Sorry, and I have the chance to talk to their management, and they are always mentioning that Bangladesh for Telenor is one of the places in the world where they get more returns. It's a super good business. So if instead of Telenor we were talking about Movistar, everybody will be very happy about how they have developed in 20 years, how they have moved their business in a country so far away, with all kinds of facilities from everybody. I mean, obviously, I don't say, and no one will listen to me saying that there is no problems. I always say that the problems we have in there, we also have them in here. Having business means sometimes having problems and sometimes having good things and bad things. But in Bangladesh, it's easy to solve them. So I don't know if you want to, I think I have more or less touched a little bit of everything. Obviously, I didn't want to go through numbers and numbers, making this boring. I only want to put a conclusion. I was there. I have been doing my business there very happily, and I will again and again, in one life and in the next life, repeat what I did.
Okay, thank you. You addressed actually all the points of regarding Bangladesh, our imports, exports, investment, problems and opportunities, everything. So one thing, what I want to know from you is that, like, as you were specialized in ready-made garments, we have competitor countries also doing well in this field. So what actually we have the challenges and opportunities in this field?
Okay, Bangladesh, as I say, is already a strong country in the textile. They were the number 2. I think the last year, maybe a couple of years ago, Vietnam took over the second position, but not because of the amount of exports, because they are more specialized in high added value. They do items more expensive than we do in Bangladesh. But I believe that Bangladesh this year again is gaining that. We have been very lucky through the COVID. You know, we are one of the economies that hasn't been really much affected by COVID. We are still growing, which is very unheard of in other parts of the world. And what we have to do now, we have to focus is how to go into this other segment. We need to, in Bangladesh, we need to go to move into being more specialized. As I say, we have all this kind of compliance set of rules that whoever wants to review, they can understand that we do have more compliance than most of the other countries in you know, that they are competing with us. You cannot go to China and tell them that, oh, I'm coming here to do the inspection in your factory. They will tell you, go out. In Bangladesh, they open up, you go there, you can ask your worker, they can ask your workers what are their standards, what they do, how much salary they get. They ask you all the information, and we always provide everything. Our compliance is strong, and our people are very, very strong in garments. I mean, they are hard workers, but at the same also they are also very efficient in the way they do. So I think we are going into that segment, and we will be increasing again. But I will be more happy to see Bangladesh moving into other sectors as well. The garment sector is already there and is flourishing. But I think Bangladesh needs to go into agro-processing sector, which is very important, in my opinion, and that where I believe that the chamber, and I hope that Spain and Bangladesh can work together in the near future very strongly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nuria, for your nice discussion. Next, we come to Mr. Santiago Fernandez Mosquera. Mr. Santiago Fernandez is a renowned professor and head of Department of Spanish Language and Literature at the University de Santiago de Compostela. He is also the head of the Inditex Chair of Spanish Language and Culture. He was the honorary chairman of the Association International Siglo de Oro. He has also collaboration with University of Dhaka. He worked with University of Dhaka. He was the lead researcher of 18 international and national projects since 1991, the majority of which focused on Spain's Golden Age literature. He has published 17 books and more than 80 articles, books, chapters, and lectures. I would like to invite him to contribute to today our discussion session.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Ambassador to invite me to this seminar, to this webinar, with people who knows the relationship between Bangladesh and Spain much better than me. Because my relationship with Bangladesh starts in 2010 with the foundation of the Inditex Chair of Spanish Language and Culture in the University of Dhaka. However, years before, I had the opportunity of traveling through the state of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, or Nagaland, and I now understand that the places have an intimate bond with what today is known as Bangladesh. This means that I already knew this country without being aware of it. Many things have changed in Bangladesh in the last 10 years. We have had difficult times in the organization, in the co-management between the different institutions, 3 public universities, 1 important company as Inditex. But so far, the results, in my opinion, could not be better. On one hand, we have focused on academic work at the different educational levels that University of Dhaka has proposed to us. And at the same time, on the other hand, we have tried to offer cultural activities open to the Bangladeshi society. More than 3,000 students passed through our classroom at the University of Dhaka. More than 50% of them are women, are girls. More than 30 scholarship holders stayed at the 2 Galician universities. And what is more, 2 of those are now assistant teachers on our chair at Dhaka. In addition, the Inditex chair has become a cultural reference in the great city of Dhaka, thanks to its activities in form of seminars, concerts, and open exhibitions, not only to our students, but to the whole city, as Nuria well known. So far, we have organized 5 international seminars of high academic value, with invited speakers from the most important European universities like La Sorbonne, the University of Vienna, Heidelberg, or the last one in 2019 with the University of Oxford. And we brought to the University of Dhaka 5 professors from Oxford, from Spanish Department of Oxford. And one thing I want to underline is we have brought to Dhaka the first performance of Spanish classical theater by a company from Colombia. They performed the Coloquio de los Perros by Miguel de Cervantes, with, I think, with great success. So plastic arts, theater, music, culture in general linked to the Hispanic world, that is, in short, our part of our mission in Bangladesh. I humbly believe that no other institution in the Spanish or Hispano-American circle has done a better and more constant cultural and educational work in Bangladesh. We can ask ourselves what an initiative like this contributes to the relationship between the 2 countries that are based on industry, on trade, or in the best of case, social projects. However, culture has not had an important role in the last 50 years, of relationships between Spain and Bangladesh. And I mean culture is the widest possible scope, also understanding education, which is in the end an essential element for social and economical development. With this mission, we have been in Bangladesh for more than 10 years. However, I must confess that I have an important goal, perhaps a wish, to carry out. A wish that I heard today is not only mine. I am a professor of Spanish literature. In all my line of work, also in universities around the world where I have been able to teach, I do my work in Spanish. because my audience always expects and even requires me to speak in Spanish. Well, this objective still cannot be carried out in Spanish-Bangladeshi relationships. And this is especially sad when we are countries and two cultures with a very relevant linguistic and cultural imprint. Bengali, as today we have heard, is in the same root of Indo-European languages, like Latin, Spanish, French, Italian. But Bengali is spoken by more than 250 speakers as a first language, has a millenary culture and literature, and is an official language in several Asian countries. But in addition, the birth of Bangladesh as a country, as a state, is based on the vindication of the Bengali language. Language has been a key element in their development as a nation. Few countries in the world have such respect and owe so much to their mother tongue for their consideration of a state. I don't think there is a need for me to remind you of this fact. For example, remember of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, in his memories. On the 21st of February, in Bangladesh, we celebrate International Mother Language Day at Shahid, Minar. In fact, the Inditex chair participates every year in this celebration. There is also an International Mother Language Institute that underlines its importance. And it is a worldwide commemoration born out of the tragic events of February 21st, 1952. You know your history better than I do. And on the other hand, Spanish is a language spoken by almost 600 speakers, 600 million of speakers. 500 of them as their mother tongue language, the second language after Mandarin Chinese as mother tongue. Now Spanish is studied as a second language by around 25 million of students, including our 3,000 of Bangladesh. But now is not the time to talk about the importance of Spanish culture. In short, in both cultures share such significant language, so important in a worldwide context. Why do we have to use a third language to understand each other? I already know the answer, of course. But just think that our tax in Bangladesh for more than 10 years is precisely to ensure that there will be many Bangladeshis who can understand and express themselves in Spanish, so that in a few years we will be able to understand each other in our own language, or at least that in Spain we could have people who speak Bengali, and in Bangladesh there could be a significant number who speak and understand Spanish. Do not misunderstand my words as a nationalist claim, but as the explanation of a mission, of a task we have carried out for years, and that has given me the opportunity to see a nation grow, to see how its social and economic situation improves every day, every travel I do to Bangladesh. In a very small part, we believe that our work in Bangladesh has helped in the growth, and perhaps this mission will make it easier for us to tackle together a better future for both nations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago, for your nice discussion. I would like to move on to our next discussant right now. He is Mr. Arturo Perez Martinez. He was the first resident ambassador of Spain to Bangladesh. He served in Dhaka during 2008 to 2011. He has a long experience in diplomatic service. Mr. Arturo was born in Madrid on November 1947. He studied law and graduated at Madrid Complutense University, a renowned university in Madrid. He joined the diplomatic career in 1977 and began to work in the Eastern European Division. He served a long time in Japan in different capacities. He also worked in the Embassy of Spain in Washington, D.C., Ottawa, and Sydney. In April 2003, he was appointed Deputy Permanent Representative of Spain to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, stationed in Vienna. He also served as the Consul General of Spain in Bern, Switzerland. Mr. Arturo also worked in Ministry of Foreign Affairs in different capacities. On October 27, he was promoted to the rank of Career Ambassador, and on November 19, 2017, he retired. Mr. Arturo has published articles on Japan and Spain and various other political affairs, and he has delivered lectures in different universities and centers of different parts of the world. He has experiences to work both in Dhaka and Madrid, so I will ask him how he evaluates the economic growth of Bangladesh and how better relations between the two countries can have an influence on that.
Dhonnavad. Assalamu alaikum. And Mr. Ambassador, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for your kind invitation on such an auspicious occasion, such as the centenary of the birth of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and also on the golden jubilee of your beautiful country. I can feel nothing but affection for it. And I'm very happy to be here and contribute to this small discussion, although very little, because so many things, so many important things have been said that there is very little for me to add. However, I will talk to you about how the Embassy of Spain opened in Dhaka. First of all, let me say that there was a need, not only because Bangladesh had an embassy, a resident embassy in Madrid 10 years before we opened ours, but there was an outcry in the street, and Mr. Chaklader Alam and some other people helped to convey this interest to the appropriate authorities of Spain, so that they decided finally that it was time to open an embassy in Dhaka. And you, Alvaro, that you mentioned, Munir, and many others felt that there was an urge, not a need, an urge. First of all, we had a very important immigration from Bangladeshis into Spain. I think today we can reckon with 20,000 or about 20,000 Bangladeshis living in Spain. At that time, when we opened the embassy, there were a few less, but they were coming and in increasing numbers. And also the figures of trade were very important. This made the opening of the embassy a necessity. And finally, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which, by the way, runs on very humble budgets, took the initiative to open it. And in October 2007, by Royal Decree 1406 of 29th of October, the embassy was formally open. I was appointed ambassador also by a royal decree of 22nd of February 2008, Royal Decree number 271. Previously, our relations were led by the Embassy of Bangladesh in Paris and the Embassy of Spain in New Delhi. That's why when I went to Bangladesh, I made a stopover in New Delhi to get the final updates of the situation in Bangladesh. And I coincided with the opening of a train line between Dhaka and Calcutta. Very posh train line, by the way. And that was a very good symptom of how the good relations were going to start. I must also say, but this is an anecdote, that in 1997, I happened to accompany the Bangladeshi ambassador who resided in Paris to present his credential letters to the King of Spain. And this was Ambassador Momen, I think, Abdul Momen, and we enjoyed very much a small chat. 20-some years later, I was the one to present credential letters to your then President, His Excellency Mr. Yayuddin Ahmed. I arrived at the time of the caretaker government in Bangladesh, and he was the president then. We had, I mentioned emigration, I mentioned important trade between our two countries. There was also, at that time, a development aid by Spain. We devoted some of our funds to education, health, basically education and health, not to speak about emergency aid that was also versed after the cyclone Cider in the previous year. And this is something I would like to mention, because luckily it's going to end. Bangladesh is growing at a very steady and very firm path, and soon it will not be a poor country. It is a middle-income country this year, I think, and by the 2041 vision 2041 of Sheikh Hasina, it will be a properly funded country. And this is something that we have to be very proud of, and I congratulate the Bangladeshis for these achievements. It's worth mentioning, and it's worth acknowledging them. Well, I have one fourth factor in our relations. It's the interest and the visits of Her Majesty Queen Sofia of Spain to Bangladesh. She made 3 trips that I know. Unfortunately, none of them coincided with my being there, but she was led by Professor Muhammad Yunus, the not only inventor of the microcredit, but also Nobel laureate in 2006 for his contribution to peace. And also he had the Concord Asturias, Prince of Asturias Prize in 1998. He told me, by the way, that once he got this prize, the Spanish one, he felt that he was going to be laureate by the Nobel Prize. This was the case. So I'm also very happy for his prize and also for his friendship. And he has stated that Queen Sofia of Spain has also contributed to microcredits in Latin America, which is something that we also have to be very fond of. Well, these 4 factors made the opening of the embassy very a need and an outcome, the proper outcome. And well, we are, I have to tell you that I arrived on the, now I have to look at it, on the 28th of April 2008 with a mobile phone, laptop, and a pen drive. That was all my official baggage. And I had to look for a house as an office, look for a house as a residence, buy a couple of cars, etc., with no money. Well, here goes another praise for my Bangladeshi hosts and friends, because only with my word and of course some commitment letters, we managed to rent a house for the office. This was located in the number 12 of Kemal Atatürk Avenue, very central, and the residence, the official residence, was in 185 Gulshan Avenue, Gulshan 2, very close to the Westin Hotel, where I had to reside a little bit longer than a year until the premises of the embassy were ready. And this took a little while because they had to be modernized and put functioning into function, which also entailed having generators, because at that time blackouts were frequent in Bangladesh, and we needed to work, of course, with air conditioning and with proper lighting, and this was impossible without a generator. So when these two generators were ready, we began to work at our embassy, at our chancery, and I moved to the residence also with a minor problem we hadn't foreseen. And this is that in the Westin we were in a room very high up where there were no mosquitoes. But in the residence, there were a lot of mosquitoes. And we were bitten the first night and the second, until we realized that we needed a mosquito net, and this was the end of the problem. But first, we had to undergo this kind of baptism of fire, as we would call it. This was, anyway, no problem. And I began to look for houses. I began to work, to send messages to Spain, dispatches. We had an honorary consul who, Mr. Jalal Uddin, who happened to allow me to use his office as premises at the beginning. He also let me use his car and his driver. And one of the things that was very interesting for me was that the traffic in Dhaka was very heavy, but the driver kept tooting his horn to ask for room for him to advance. Of course, this was impossible, but anyway, he tried. And everybody was tooting the horn, which made the situation quite peculiar, because it was impossible to advance properly. Anyway, I presented credential letters, as I said, and the honorary consul had to finish his operation mandate because it was reluctant to have him here, he realized, and of course he closed his premises as chancery of the honorary consulate. He returned his coat of arms, his flag, etc., but he continued to let me use his office. I did it less and less, especially when my personnel began to arrive, first in August, then in September, and finally my secretary arrived in February the following year. But anyway, we managed to work, and it was very, very pleasant to do so. The
lease of the premises. The chancery was signed on the 18th of June and the residence on the 1st of September. Well, we began to engage also local people, and they proved to be very useful, not only for the language, but because they were very competent and they worked very well. The visas, very well looked after by our Bangladeshi friends, were still given by the Embassy of France. But at the end of the year, we began to deliver them, and this was a very big achievement for us because, of course, we were delighted by the French activity, but of course we thought that it was up to us to do this kind of job, and we did. We also celebrated the first National Day at the Westin Hotel where I was staying, and this was a success because many people were very interested in knowing what we were like, what we would do. And I must tell you that we offer some Spanish food, and we also had an impromptu flamenco show at the end of the celebration. This I didn't expect it, but it happened, and it kept happening every National Day we celebrated, at least when I was there. I would like to add a few things about the Inditex chair that my friend, Professor Santiago, started. This was the result of my unsuccessful attempts to open an Instituto Cervantes in Dhaka. Many people wanted to learn Spanish, and I wanted to do a couple of things. First of all, to have an agreement signed of cultural, educational, and cooperation, which I left without being able to sign it, although there was will on both parts, but somehow it didn't happen. There was only an economic cooperation agreement signed by the two countries in 1988, and there was no dual taxation agreement. I think now it's being negotiated. There was no protection of investment agreements, and there was nothing. Of course, there was goodwill and there was mutual understanding, but there was nothing written on paper. And this was a little bit inconvenient, but of course, nothing to make impossible the dealings and the relationship. We had a lot of trade, as I said at the beginning, and we had many programs going on. I had never been through mutiny. There was one in 2009, and we didn't know how to act. Thank goodness, Sheikh Hasina put an end in 3 days to this anomaly, and I would like to congratulate her again for this, because it was not an easy job to do. We also had to preside over EU while I was in Dhaka. This was the beginning of 2010, if I'm not wrong. And we didn't know what was going to happen, because at that time, the Treaty of Lisbon entered into force and many changes happened in EU. First of all, we had a president of the Council of EU. And secondly, we had high representative for the foreign affairs. Thirdly, we had a foreign service of EU, and we thought, well, maybe EU will do the presidency, but of course, speaking with the delegate of the EU, we had to do it as if, the way we did it previously, and we had 6 months of monthly meetings, and we did very good work. My secretary of the embassy, or the second chief of chancellery, as he liked to be called, helped me by preparing these meetings very thoroughly. And I think after 6 months, we did a good job. The Spanish presidency was a success. And we also had a few more items to mention. I would like to point out the Spanish, the Spanish glory of winning the World Cup in football, about which Chuck Lader, my friend, wrote a fantastic article in the Daily Star. But I would like to mention that I expected the Bangladeshi to be very fond of cricket, tennis, and this kind of of sports that, left soccer in second place. This was not the case. They were very fond of soccer and very supporting fans of the teams. At the beginning, there were flags of the different countries participating, but at the end, there were plenty of Spanish flags, not only in Dhaka, all over, because I paid a visit to a village nearby, and there were Spanish flags all over, which made me very happy and very, very proud. We mentioned Munir, we mentioned Professor Yunus. I would like to add Bibi Russell. Bibi Russell is a very important person in the world of fashion and in the Bangladeshi life in general. She is a promoter of the craftsmanship, the beautiful craftsmanship there is in Bangladesh, of not only textile, Bangladesh is a textile superpower, but also of many other handcrafts. We will mention Yamdani, which is also one of the few countries that keeps it. I think there is some in Sri Lanka, but not in India. In India it has disappeared, and in Bangladesh it's kept, and it's a beautiful fabric, and that needs very delicate fingers to achieve. Bibi is promoting this craftsmen to make them proud again of what they are capable of doing, which is something fantastic, really. And maybe I will leave it here. I know there are many other items, but I don't want to get the public tired. I would like to thank them for their patience, and thank you all for organizing this auspicious occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Arturo.
May I just mention one little thing, anecdote? Because Bangladesh actually has been very lucky. As I said at the beginning, we are very fortunate. And this is just a small anecdote. Queen Sophia, who's a very important person in here, in spite of what you hear about King Carlos and all that.
Yes, goodwill, goodwill.
Goodwill.
Yeah.
And just to prove that, she visited Dhaka 3 times. And then she wanted to go to the villages and to see the people work. And she did. And then the final point is that, let me tell you, this is unusual. When Madre Teresa de Calcutta died, she went to the funeral. And the people there, they didn't know where to put her up. Because they said the Grand Hotel, the Calcutta Grand Hotel, I have been there, and it's a nice hotel, a big hotel. And then when it was suggested to her, through her protocol, she said, you know, if it were at all possible, she would rather rest in Dhaka. He said, what? Your Majesty, Dhaka, Calcutta is Calcutta. Dhaka is a small place. He said, no. But find a room at, what's the name?
Sonargaon Hotel.
Yeah.
I used to go to
Sonargaon.
Sonargaon.
And they found and they flew her from Calcutta to Dhaka to sleep. So you can see, this is a real love. That you are really comfortable at a place, and that shows the love and affection she had, and she still has for this country.
Yes.
That's why we say that we are very, very fortunate in this sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Arturo, and thank you, Mr. Chakladar, for your inputs. Mr. Arturo, you described a lot of things, a lot of experiences during the first days in Bangladesh until the finishing of your tenure. So we are very much lucky to get all the information to get here today. Now I will turn to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Bangladesh to Spain, Equatorial Guinea, and Andorra, Mr. Mohammad Sarawar Mahmoud, NDC. Mr. Mahmoud joined the Embassy of Bangladesh, Madrid, Spain in April 18, 2021. Before joining the embassy, he was working as the Director General at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Bangladesh, from July 2018 to April 2021. He worked as the Consul General of Bangladesh in Hong Kong from April 2013 to June 2018. He also served in the Permanent Mission of Bangladesh to the United Nations in New York and in the Bangladesh missions at Brussels and Singapore under various capacities. Mr. Sarwar stood 7th in combined merit list in the public service examination and joined the Foreign Service in February 1998. He also stood first and secured Rector Award, that is the first position among 246 trainee civil servants in the foundation training in Bangladesh. Mr. Sarwar obtained his bachelor with honors and master's degree from the Department of Economics in University of Dhaka. He also did his MBA, Masters of Business Administration, from the Institute of Business Administration under the University of Dhaka. He is a fellow of the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, Hawaii. He also completed National Defense course from the National Defense College, Bangladesh from January 2019 to December 2019. Now I would like to request His Excellency the Ambassador to participate in the discussion session. Sir.
Respected freedom fighter, Lieutenant Colonel Kazi Sajjad Ali Johir, Veer Pratik, Shadhinota Padak, Padmashree, esteemed Ambassador Mr. Arturo Perez Martinez, Professor Santiago Fernandez Mosquera, University de Santiago de Compostela, Spain, respected Mr. Chakladar Mahmoud Alam, and Madam Nuria Lopez, President Spain Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. On behalf of the Embassy of Bangladesh, I am extremely pleased and delighted to have hosted today's webinar, which is the first of its kind organized by our mission. Let me take this opportunity to express my sincere most gratitude and thanks to all the distinguished speakers for your kind presence and delivering your valuable remarks. I sincerely express our thanks to all the audience for patiently watching this great event. We are currently celebrating the birth centenary of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, which has been declared as the Mujib Barsha. Simultaneously, we are also celebrating the golden jubilee of the independence of Bangladesh. Next year, we would be commemorating the 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Bangladesh and Spain. With all these commemorations, Bangladesh indeed has several reasons to celebrate. The indomitable courage and spirit of the people, coupled with the bold and visionary leadership of the country, we are progressing very rapidly. The country's foreign exchange reserve hit a new record with $50 billion recently. Our export worth more than $40 billion, and annual flow of remittance is more than $25 billion. Despite the pandemic, the country's GDP growth reached 6.1% in last concluded fiscal year, one of the highest in the world. The country obtained the status of lower middle income country. Last year, our GDP per capita reached to 2,227 US dollar. Over the past 20 years, Bangladesh's GDP per capita increased 500%. With macroeconomic stability as its cornerstone, Bangladesh's economy has increased by 271 times during the last 50 years. Concentrating on its traditional labor-intensive light manufacturing industry, Bangladesh is today the world's second largest clothing exporter behind China. Bangladesh's economic performance is also a reflection of its prudent fiscal management. The budget deficit has been restricted to less than 5% of GDP, or limiting public spending left space for the private sector to borrow from the financial system and invest. The coronavirus pandemic affected all national economies and saw per capita incomes slip. The government's timely economic stimulus packages, judicious cash incentives, rebound in exports, and strong remittance inflows are already paying dividends. Despite its huge population, the Bangladesh model is a positive example that has aided in becoming an outperformer in the Asian region. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, describing the COVID-19 pandemic as a litmus test for global solidarity, recently said, quote, "The world needs to frame an inclusive, sustainable, and holistic post-COVID-19 recovery plan for expansion of trade in business and investment for the common prosperity. We need whole of the world approach now," unquote. In fact, the government of Bangladesh has been trying to make a balance between lives and livelihood. Bangladesh's miracle is now a model for many countries, according to a World Bank report titled Bangladesh Development Update, Moving Forward, Connectivity and Logistics to Strengthen Competitiveness, which has been released recently. Quote, "Despite the uncertainty created by COVID-19, the outlook for Bangladesh's economy is positive," unquote. It assessed that Bangladesh did extremely well when the pandemic hit, and it had also launched a good number of stimulus packages to keep people employed despite the shocks. It is mentionable here that the government so far introduced more than 23 recovery packages with a combined value of 15.5 billion US dollar, and which is 4.5% of gross domestic product. In 2019, Bangladesh was the world's 7th largest, fastest growing economy, with a GDP growth that was rising steadily, surpassing an 8% mark. The country's economic performance during the pandemic years was recently also recognized by Bloomberg's COVID-19 resilience ranking, where it is ranked 24th out of 53 economies in the world that are worth over 200 billion US dollar. Distinguished audience, as Bangladesh celebrates its 50th anniversary of its independence, many international observers appreciated the remarkable transformation of the country to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Here, I would like to humbly add also the important role of the government. Government has been a major player in the development journey of Bangladesh since independence in 1971. For example, the government's investment in rural road construction in the late 1980s and 80s. These last-mile all-weather roads helped connect the villages of Bangladesh to the rest of the country. Something else was also brewing at the same time, which had a far-reaching impact in rural Bangladesh. Use of high-yielding variety of rice, first introduced in the 1960s, expanded also. Also aided by irrigation, there was significant expansion of rice cultivation in the dry winter months. As the transformative potential of irrigation and HIV rice got recognized, the government started liberalizing agriculture input markets in the 1980s. Meanwhile, in the industrial sector, the two policy innovations in the mid-1980s, the back-to-back letter of credit and duty drawback facilities through bonded warehouses, removed two major constraints for the country's fledgling garment industry. The transformative policy and public investment actions of the 1980s and 1990s expanded the horizons of Bangladeshi entrepreneurs from the small farmers to the garment exporters. The acceleration in garment export helped the country earn valuable foreign exchange and maintain macroeconomic stability. But because the bulk of the garment workforce was rural women, this also resulted in a huge infusion of funds to rural Bangladesh. This was complemented by remittance inflow from migrant workers. The increase in incomes in rural Bangladesh also supported the growth of rural non-farm activities, which expanded significantly alongside agricultural growth. Now, let me come to the role of the top leadership of the country. The Honorable Prime Minister declared Vision 2021, Vision 2041, and Delta Plan 2100. Bangladesh is also not shying away from its international commitments. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change recently congratulated Bangladesh due to its timely submission of an updated nationally determined contributions, with its commitment to cut greenhouse gas emissions in accordance with the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. It being one of the largest troop contributors to the United Nations peacekeeping operations, is an advocate of global peace and harmony, which was the dream of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. At this moment, 6,742 Bangladeshi peacekeepers deployed in 8 countries, which is 8.4% of the total peacekeepers of the world, and the number is glorious for the nation. May I refer to the ongoing situation about the presence of more than 1 million forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals, commonly known as Rohingyas in Bangladesh. There is huge cost involved in sheltering more than 1 million Rohingyas, and there are consequences for the region and for the world if the crisis is not resolved at the earliest. We hope that international community would be firmer in their stance for the return of Rohingyas to their homeland and to increase the pressure on Myanmar and the countries that have influence on Myanmar so that they are compelled to take back the Rohingyas and safeguard their honor and dignity. Distinguished audience, let's have a look at our relations with Spain. Bangladesh and Spain enjoy excellent friendly bilateral relations since the establishment of diplomatic relations in 1972. Spain was one of the first few countries that recognized Bangladesh. Bangladesh immediately after its independence, and our bilateral relations are continuously developing in various fields based on shared values and mutual respect. Spain has emerged as Bangladesh's 4th largest export destination in the world after the United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Similarly, Bangladesh is Spain's 4th largest trading partner in Asia after China, Japan, and India. Bangladesh offers attractive investment incentives for foreign investors with 100% capital return, tax holiday for 5 to 10 years, port facility, and establishment of 100 special economic zones. In this regard, I am delighted to mention that some renowned Spanish companies like Inditex, Técnicas Reunidas, TSK, SCS Group, through its company Cobra, along with some other Spanish companies, have solid trade and investment relationship with Bangladesh. Here, let me underscore the need for more regular exchange of trade and investment relegations to explore untapped potentials of further growth in trade and economic relations between the two countries. The friendly bilateral relations between the two countries could further be strengthened by initiating the process of signing some bilateral agreements in mutually agreed fields such as regular foreign office consultations, avoidance of double tax, promotion and protection of investment, and mutual cooperation on culture, education, and science. We have a large pool of skilled farmers who could be useful in the agricultural farms in Spain and contribute to increasing Spain's agricultural, dairy, and poultry products. There is no dearth of goodwill among the two countries if we look at the exchange of high-level visits. Her Majesty the Queen Sophia's visits to Bangladesh on a number of occasions was important. The last visit of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to Spain during December 2019 was also remarkable. Now let's come to the contribution of our invaluable expatriates. Today, thousands of Bangladesh nationals live in Spain who are enterprising, hardworking, and are contributing to both the economies of Spain and Bangladesh. Many of them are long-term residents with their families and have their own businesses. Others are employed in different sectors. Their children attend Spanish schools, and the families have adapted well to a Spanish way of life. Through their economic activities, they represent a very positive contribution to the Spanish economy and an additional element of diversity in the communities they live in. Distinguished audience, finally, we hope that Bangladesh-Spain relations would continue to grow in depth and dimensions in the days to come. Let me utilize this forum to invite more Spanish companies to invest in important sectors like power, energy, shipbuilding, industrial waste management, telecommunications, ICT, and food processing industries of Bangladesh. From the embassy, we are working closely with the Spanish government and with the local business community to present the business environment more attractive to foreign investment so that companies, both local and foreign, may benefit from the potential of the Bangladeshi market, thereby creating jobs and contributing to the prosperity of the country. At the end, let me assure you of the support and assistance from the Embassy of Bangladesh in your collaborative efforts. Together, we would further build a strong bond of partnership and strengthen as well as enrich each other's economy and culture. I thank you all for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your detailed discussion on today's topic.
May I just add one thing?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's just 1 minute.
Of course, please.
Mr. Ambassador, I am particularly grateful to you, and I'm delighted that you mentioned the contribution being made by Bangladesh to the Rohingya program. Because here, I think the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Sheikh Hasina, has done a wonderful job. And internationally, it should be recognized that she has done a great job. And I think it's more than 1 million people who live in Bangladesh, and it's not common. It's a huge, huge task. And I congratulate the government of Bangladesh and particularly Sheikh Hasina for a contribution to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chakladar. Dear audience, we are coming to the closing moments of this webinar program today. With the discussions we had today from the distinguished discussants, we got to know different aspects of bilateral relations between Spain and Bangladesh. We also got a synopsis of the development journey of Bangladesh over the years. Our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, once dreamed of a golden Bengal, Sonar Bangla. I think under the current leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, we are moving toward that very closely. Right now, actually, I'd like to thank everyone who has joined today's webinar. Mr. Kaji Sajjad Ali Johir, who joined us from Bangladesh through Zoom network, and our distinguished participants. I'd like to thank you all. And all the viewers, I also like to thank you all. Khoda Hafiz, Bangladesh Chirojibi Hok. Thank you.